Hello and welcome to Mind Your Mind podcast. As always, I'm Hina Malik and I'm here with Ozan Kulchu. We are here to talk about life, mind, heart, science, spirituality, everything and nothing. If you have been with us before, you know what nothing is. So today we have a guest who happens to be my friend. Her name is Dr. Rachana Awatramani. She has a PhD in counseling psychology and is a certified happiness life coach and a certified mindfulness life coach. She has been mentoring and guiding people all across the globe for over 11 years now. Her name, Rachna, is a Hindi word which means to create, and she has been discovering indigenous ways of evolving herself and her clients for a better, fuller life. She is currently working on a project which is titled Moving from Clutter to Clarity, and this is what we are going to discuss today in depth: how we move from clutter to clarity through mindfulness and meditation. Welcome to the show, Rachna.
Thank you so much, Henna, for having me and Ozan for having me on this show. I've heard your podcast before, and there have been some interesting guests and some interesting discussions. So I'm just looking forward to this today.
Glad you liked it,
Good to
and
have
we're so
you.
grateful to have you. So let's dig into what your project is, Rachna. This seems very fascinating. I mean, the title, "Moving from Clutter to Clarity." Can you tell
hmm
us what clutter are we referring to?
Okay, so then you look into a room which is full of things which are unorganized, and when you enter it and you can't find anything, that is a clutter that you can actually see, right? It's visible to you. But when there is clutter in your mind, you cannot see that. So therefore, I think the question is very good because you asked me what is clutter, because people don't understand the clutter that we carry within ourselves into our mind, because we're doing so many things every day and we keep, putting information, and we become so full that we just don't have time to recharge or even understand that there is clutter. So therefore, the whole idea of making people understand what are the signs
Mhm.
of feeling that there is clutter in the mind, and then how to move from there to more clarity. This is what I'm trying to do through different tools, and one of them, yes, is mindfulness and meditation that you mentioned.
Okay. So our thoughts, I would say, waste thoughts, are those clutter?
So I'll let me tell you some signs. Okay. So one of them is, yes, overthinking, too much of thinking, where we are just unable to make a decision. So decision making becomes difficult because you're just thinking all the time. Okay, if I do this, this will happen. If I do this, that will happen. And in the whole process, we don't make decisions. People feel a lot of anxiety. So there's a lot of anxiousness. They're unable to, even have a basic conversation with people because they're scared. So there is a lot of fear attached to it. And then also a lot of time people withdraw. See, they don't talk anything. So, and or for example, if they are out, they talk too much.
Mm-hmm.
So there is always so much of extreme. So you understand that there is no clarity in thoughts. There is no clarity in action. There's so much of unpredictability in a person. And you have extreme emotions. You get triggered with small, small things, and then you might just be overwhelmed with, thinking lack of attention, unable to focus. Then productivity is impacted. You can see people who are stressed, who are working in corporate life, and they're going from, say, 9 to 5, 9 to 6 job every day and not having time to recharge or relax, or even working on weekends. They're full. So
Mm-hmm.
then they are unable to be productive at work. So these are few signs where you will understand that, okay, the clutter is coming up. Like your room also needs cleaning, right? In the
Yes.
same way, our mind also needs a little bit of cleaning.
Yeah. Get that. Actually, I was about to ask you this, that how do we know that we are what we are thinking is useless? I
Right.
mean, where do we
Right.
define a line? Sometimes, like, how do we know overthinking is actually overthinking? we might just not know what is the optimum amount of thinking.
What
So
is the necessary thoughts
how
and
do we
what is
define
the
overthinking?
best?
Like, but
Yeah.
then you just moved on to the science, and you told us that when we are feeling overwhelmed and we are not able to function well, we tend to get into negative rumination. We get into negative thought process more than anything productive. We get into procrastination. Those are the things that really tell us that there's something wrong with our thoughts, and we need to rewire. We need to get back on track. What exactly is this project about? What are the steps, how we move from clutter to clarity?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is to take a pause, because a lot of time people are just running, right? So when you talk about nothing, so if people cannot get into that extreme nothingness, and because we are not used to complete silence,
That's
or
our favorite thing,
you
Ozan.
know yeah, and then to just be there, it is difficult, right? And everybody has their own journey. So even if they cannot reach that, they can just start with taking a pause. And I think COVID was the biggest example, where everyone was just on hold, on pause. So just realize that how important it is to just go back and reflect, right? So I think the first step is that. Second step is, of course, to question yourself, where if these things are helping me in some way.
Mhm.
So if a thought is coming, consciously taking charge to question that. Is this a rational thought? Is this helping me in some way? Is this helping me grow, evolve as a person? Is it helping me in my work, in my personal life? Is it productive in any way? If no, then we know this is just a thought which is just come and it will go. A lot of time people want to anticipate every thought that come to our mind. We don't need to do that. Sometimes we just need to, let the thought come and go and just observe and just be there. I think that is difficult in training people to do that as well through mindfulness. And last, I think a lot of things a lot of time people focus on the things which are beyond their control.
Mhm.
So that is where I train them through different activities and exercises where, they can focus on things which are in their hand. So if you are up for it, I mean, I can do that exercise with you guys right now, and then,
Yeah.
your audience can actually replicate the same exercise.
Of course, yes.
That would
Please
be
go
great.
ahead.
Okay. So do you have a paper pen with you?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I want you to keep your hand and create an outline of your hand on that.
Okay. Mm, done. Can
Yeah.
you see this?
Yes, I can. Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So now I want both of you to think of one incident where you are overthinking, or you feel this needs a little more clarity in life. And it can be personal, professional, whichever area of your life. You can just think about it, take a moment. And now write down 3 things about that situation which are in your control, that you will write down inside your hand. And 3 things which are not in your control, you write that outside the hand, outside the outline.
Okay. Well, when I think about it, I feel that this is also in my hand. This is also in my hand. I can do something about it. But uh, I know it's not completely in my hand, but I still feel that it's in my hand.
Okay. So how about you think about things which are completely in your hand and completely not in your hand? And write only 3 of them for now. so that, we'll take it up. We'll take an example from both of you. So you can just write it down and we'll discuss it. Then,
Hope whoever's listening also doing it. Just hit pause, do it, and then keep going.
yeah. So why don't you start by sharing what have you written? Tell me a little bit about the incident that you thought of, and maybe one point which is in your control and one not in your control.
Maybe I can go first. I can see that Henna is still
Yeah.
thinking about it.
Yeah, she's still
Yeah.
thinking. Yeah, I think you can go first.
Actually, I have been overthinking lately. I won't deny. But I see actually like what is in my hand is our action in the present moment, and how I decide to feel in the present moment, whether I decide to be angry, decide to feel joy or whatever, and how I manage my fear in the present moment. And when I do that, I realize like most of the fear is actually coming from outside the hand. So it's like external situations. I think fear is mostly coming from external situations when we try to make something happen out of those, or we will think, what will happen? How will our environment be? What will people's reaction be? So those are the most of the things which I fear a lot about, or I think a lot about, which I can do nothing about.
Awesome. So this is so beautiful. You shared so nicely about, how your actions are in your hand, and how you feel your fear is coming from things which are external factors, which are not in your control, right? So this clarity you got on your own through this exercise when you were thinking about that situation, right? I'm going to ask Hena to share one example now so that, then I can conclude, because there is part two to this exercise as well.
Sure. So, uh, currently, what I have on my mind is that I'm giving a lot of interviews and I'm applying for jobs. So, I'm doing a lot of overthinking about, will I be able to clear this? Will I get selected? What if I get selected, but the company culture is not good? And, things like, toxicity in the environment and et cetera, work pressure. How will I manage home? Many things are going on. So, out of them, I feel it's just in my hand to give my best shot. uh Rest everything is outside my control. But I feel that I can take it in my hand by doing something, but that is the reason I'm overthinking.
Mhm.
So yeah.
So I think in your case, you'll need to break everything down when it comes to what all can you do actually and what all you cannot do. So it'll be a longer list to fill inside and outside. Once you fill this up, usually I ask my clients to cut it, so the outline, and discard everything that is not in your control. Because the more you see that, the more it is reinforced in your mind, and the fears are more. You feel more anxious. There is more clutter, right? So now you have things written which are in your hand, and what you need to do is focus only on that. So the next step is to pin that where you're working, so that it's like a constant training for you. Now, a lot of people would say, I don't want to pin it, because what if, my partner will see it? What if my roommate will see it? What if, somebody in office will see it? I don't want to share. It's very personal. So the next step to this is, the reason I asked you to draw a hand is, and say that this is in your hand. So every time when you see this, you can click a picture, keep it in your phone. Every time you spend about, say, 5 minutes every day looking at that image and saying that this is in my hand. And the moment you do that, you keep moving your hand. So you are anchoring those things which are in your control by your hand movement. So when you do that, it's with you. Now nobody knows when you're in a situation and you're feeling anxious and you're overthinking, you just move your hand, and your brain is anchored that now I'm going to come back to things that are in my hand, not in what others are thinking, what others are saying, and what they are doing, because that's beyond my control. Let's come back to what is in my hand. You move your hand, nobody knows why. It's your
Yes.
secret.
Yeah, it's our secret. That's so cool. I mean, this is a very great practical tip to implement for our listeners as well. And it's a constant reminder of the things that are not in our control. It's just useless to ponder on them. It's just useless to think about them and be anxious, create anxiety in your mind. So how do this was about the future. I think both our examples were about being anxious about the future. What about the past? If we are thinking if you're constantly in your past, if you're thinking too much about something and you regret on the
Mm.
actions that you have taken, how do we cope up with that?
Is that in your control?
No.
Everything is
What's
out of
That
done
hand.
is done.
so you come back. You write in the list that, I'm thinking
That is
about the past,
outside
but
our
it's
hand.
outside.
Okay.
It's outside your
Okay.
hand. So you come back. And again, the moment you move your hand, it's anchored, you come back to the present. So it's like a swing, when you're thinking about the past, you usually the emotions associated with it are regret, guilt, sadness. Those are the emotions that will come. I wish I would have done things differently. I wish things would
Hmm.
have happened differently with me. Statements like that. And then when you're thinking about the future, it's like fear of uncertainty. I don't know, what if this happens? How will I control it? Will I be able to manage it? So it's a lot of anxiety, it's a lot of fear. So the emotions are different when you think about the future. So you just, we humans are usually there, like in the past, in the future, in the past, in the future.
Hmm.
So I think this exercise also helps you to come back to the present, because the more you train your mind to be mindful, conscious in the present, different words, same thing, that moment you are here, that's what life is, right? That's when you're living 100% and you're enjoying the moment.
There's a moment.
Yeah, but I think you need to train. It's a training. I think the biggest, like a lot of people, I can use an example here. Like one of my clients was telling me about how sometimes when you meditate, you feel amazing. You're just blissful and you just come out of it like, oh wow, I should feel this every day. So, then you want to meditate every day. The next day you don't feel like that. Next day you're like, oh God, I was thinking about something and I just could not focus. And so the purpose of meditation, according to me, is not to make you feel blissful. Meditation is a tool to bring you to the present. You're training your brain. Okay, I'm going to the past, come back. Come back to breathing or come back to candle. Whatever meditation people are doing. It's the same thing, right? It is making you focus on the chanting, on affirmation, on your breathing, on your sensation. So
Hmm.
you go to the past, you come back. You go to the future, you come back. So that 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 1 hour, whatever time people meditate, you are doing that. You're telling your mind, come back, come back, come back. So the more you keep doing that, then more your mind becomes in the present and more clarity you achieve.
So, we have actually done an episode on the present moment. We have also done
Mm,
an episode on self reflection. And these
mm,
are some things that we touched on while talking to our guests and with each other, of course. Uh, we also spoke about how our surroundings, uh, you know, create an external stimulus, an external clutter, which kind of contributes to your internal clutter.
right.
So is it true? How true is that?
It does impact you. It's like, it's like a plant, what you keep putting inside that's how it'll blossom, right? You'll have a flower, it'll grow or it'll die. So your environment does have a huge impact on your personality, your well-being, how you talk to people, or even your mood to that matter. That's why they say move out from the toxic environment. Like even your room, if
Mm-hmm.
it's full of clutter, for how many days will you live in it? Eventually, you'll get up and clean, right? Because you want some space for yourself to breathe, to relax, to feel yourself. So, yes, it does impact.
Okay.
However, I think your next thing in mind is how do I deal with it?
Of course, yes. Of course, you have some practical tips to offer to us to deal with it. But it all comes with practice. I mean, we can't just get rid of our thoughts overnight. We need to constantly train our mind to think less and less and, be more focused. So, uh, Rachna, for an overthinker, because I am an overthinker and I have experienced it myself, for an overthinker, it's really hard and saddening to hear from someone you love and care that you are just overthinking. Ah, come on, you're just overthinking. I mean, this is the most uh, terrible remark that you get to hear from someone into a conversation which perhaps you have only initiated just so that you don't overthink. And still you get to listen to this. How do we cope up with that at an emotional level?
So, when this happens, you need to first understand the person you're talking to is not trained to maybe be empathetic or help you there. Or rather, you went without any warning. You just went talking about your emotions and, sharing about I'm overthinking. You didn't give any warning signs. So, of course, I cannot talk about the other person who's not here, because that person is just reacting or responding based on his or her own experience, right? Or personality. But if I am talking to my partner and I'm saying that, listen, I want to talk about something because I think there are too many thoughts around this in my head, and I want to just, think out loud with you. So then your partner is ready for it.
Hmm.
Okay, if you're just going, your partner's doing 10 other things, and you're like, oh, I'm doing this, and you're expecting it to say, oh, I'll understand, I'll listen, because not trained to do that. Then I think you need a professional
Yeah.
to say that, I need clarity. And that's where I think I have a job, where people come to me and we talk
Go
about
to
things like
Rachana.
this.
You'll say, go to Rachana.
Yeah.
And I say that a lot, actually. For example, when my wife starts overthinking and she just talking about situation, I'm like, you're overthinking. But it's like to give her more comfort that, because the more you overthink, uh, more it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And sometimes, like, you just need to realize, actually, I'm overthinking it. To have that realization. If you don't have it on your own, maybe it's good that someone points out to you and you're like, okay, I'm overthinking.
Right. And it's also how the partner takes it. So if you have a rapport where you can actually say how he said it, that, I think you're just overthinking. It's also the tone, right? Like if a partner says, "Oh, you're just overthinking, I don't want to talk to you right now. Like just figure it out." So
Yeah.
it's different. That would be hurtful. But if you're just saying that, okay, I get, but maybe you're overthinking, just pause or come back to present and reflect on it. So it's also how the people are talking to you about it.
Right. And the things that are beyond our control, of course, the key is accepting it and just trusting in the process. All right.
Yeah,
And
accepting is the important one. I've been, for example, when I say about my wife, it's like, she loves it because it comforts her directly. Like she's always talking, everybody has different ways of overthinking. Some people just want to talk it out and then they feel better. Some people just, I don't know, for example, when I overthink, I just silent completely. You mentioned there's like withdrawing. I do completely that one because I'm just busy thinking. And you see on the people, especially if you're close to them, when they're overthinking and how you can actually help them out with that one.
So as you said, like how it comforts your partner when you say that, and for you, it's a completely different coping mechanism and strategy that you get into complete silence, and So I think this is a great strength if you just know this works for you. So coming back to your question, Henna, when you said when your partner is doing that, how do I cope with it? I think coming back and understanding what strategy works for me. Does it help me to talk to my partner? It's adding on more to my partner with on me. So I think it's not working. Then we change how we cope with it.
Right. I mean, also understanding triggers. Like
Yeah.
when are you most prone to overthinking? What is the time of the day when you are overthinking the most? Understanding those triggers and maybe working around them, avoiding them. But that just brings me to another thing. Like, we get to hear that keep yourself occupied, or uh, maybe keep yourself distracted. That way you can prevent overthinking. Is that a good advice?
So again, it comes to what works for you and what works in different situations. It
But is that
cannot
not
be always the same
running
strategy.
away from our thoughts?
But sometimes it's okay, right? Sometimes it is helping you. Like for example, there is this is from Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna is running away from someone, and that's the first encounter of Karan with Lord Krishna. So Karan admired Lord Krishna. Oh, he's like the king, and he does everything. And the first time when he meets him, he's running away because someone's trying to kill him, and
Oh,
he's just actually running.
yeah.
And Krishna's like, just fight, like you're the king, fight. Like, what are you doing? Why are you running? And he was so surprised. And he's like, but he's got whatever the power. He's not going to die through me. There's a particular person who's going to kill him. I will not be able to kill him. Then why do I just stand here? I mean, it's okay. I'll run. And that's why I think that Run Chordas is one of his name because he was running. So that's the situation. You need to sense the situation and then take a call and say that, okay, you cannot actually do anything here. So might as well using the technique in psychology, it's called focus distraction. I'm connecting two different schools altogether, but they're saying the same thing. It's called focus distraction. So if that technique helps you sometimes, for example, for students, when there is an exam tomorrow and I cannot focus and there is a lot of distraction, okay, so I am going to remove all of that and then, just focus on one thing. So you're using a technique, right? You're not running away from your house responsibilities and cooking and not talking to your parents. Then you'll say, oh, you're running away from the
Yeah,
situation.
you're just
But I have
prioritizing your
something to,
exam and
yeah,
your studies.
exactly.
Right.
So focusing on one thing. So it's required in that situation, you're required to do that. So different strategy at different time. And sometimes being in the present and reflecting works.
Mm-hmm.
So you use that. Sometimes planning for the future works, so you do that. But we cannot say it'll be the same technique throughout for everyone. It'll be different, but different timing.
But all this holds true when you know you are overthinking. What if when you
Yeah.
don't know?
So that's when you come back to your awareness. I
Hmm.
think it all comes down to that. How
That is
much,
mindfulness.
yeah, how
Checking
much
on
are you
yourself.
aware? Yeah. How much are you aware about your own self, about how you feel, what you're doing, how you're doing? I think that's when you know.
Better said than done.
Yeah.
I think
You
Ozan
know,
is still overthinking.
you know that you know.
Yeah. And you do, right? Like, for example, during COVID, people, like, it was a situation where nobody was prepared for. But I think humans are so amazing. They're just so flexible in terms of just adjusting to the situation. Then you just know what works for you.
Mhm.
So if you just bring that camera lens on yourself, you will know that. So it's okay to be in the selfie mode.
So, talking about the things beyond our control, which are outside our hand, do we just surrender to them? Do we is there a technique to trust or surrender, or is it just, is it just how it is?
Okay. So it depends on what you're surrendering to and what you're accepting to. Like as I said, maybe some things are so much beyond. Like for example, I have no control what you're thinking, right? Or what your partner's thinking, or what Ozan's thinking. I have no control of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I have no choice but accepting it, right? Can I do anything about it? I cannot do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wasting my time, energy, my mind, my thoughts, everything, just thinking, oh, what you two are thinking.
Mm-hmm.
but it's not helping me in any way. So I need to come back and focus on, okay, what I'm supposed to be doing, what I'm supposed to be speaking, right? So that is how it is. So you're not surrendering, it's more of acceptance that this is beyond my control. And when you talk about surrender, I think it's more from the perspective of just trusting the flow of life,
Mm-hmm.
that things will, you know, fall in place. And I think a lot of people who feel anxiousness or who are scared about the future, it is difficult to trust the process.
Mm-hmm.
They need a little bit of planning. But then planning is in your control. So you can plan for it, the pros and cons and, your own action. But I cannot plan what you will react to it or what others will say, what my boss will say. Like when you go for an interview, whatever you say is in your control. But whether they accept it, not accept it, it's not in your control. What they'll ask you, what they'll say, it's not in your control.
But here you overthink to figure out if there is something you can do to manipulate those things
Yeah.
which you think right now out of control. What if they're not out of your control? You just can't figure out how to manipulate them yet. I'm sure
No, you
some
can
coaches
go.
have brought it up to you.
Yeah.
Sometimes we overthink because we think that we don't know enough. I think this is what Ozan is referring
Yeah,
to, that
exactly.
we sometimes we think that
Hmm.
maybe we do not know that the whole thing, maybe there is something more that we are missing out.
If you're thinking hard enough, then maybe you will find something new, right?
Yeah. So brain mind in itself is so interesting. So if you actually want to use that power and let your mind figure it out, then you need to instruct your mind for it. Like for example, you can just leave a question in your mind that how can I make this better? And leave it there. And because there are so many resources in your brain, it will figure out the answer. But you need to give that pause. But if you constantly go on, it is difficult. Like there's a difference between overthinking and thinking. So there's a
Hmm.
very thin line. What you're saying that if I want an answer, I'm thinking about it, and I'll think a little harder, I'll figure it out. So that's a different concept. You're thinking. It's like a technique called mind mapping. I put a thought and then I put all my thoughts in the paper like a branch and then, figure out some things and plan something. That's thinking. Overthinking comes in when you are unable to do your day-to-day activity. Let's put it up like that. So a certain amount of thinking is of course normal because we are operating like that. Overthinking is when I'm not able to brush, I'm not able to take bath, I'm not able to cook food, I'm not able to eat, I'm not able to sleep properly. It's impacting my overall well-being. So it's gone to that extreme. And that's when I say, oh, it's overthinking. Now I need to do something about it. I just cannot be living with my thoughts.
Hmm.
So that's when I need to come back.
No, I
So
like that part.
that's when,
And that reminds me of when we were talking about doing nothing, and we were talking about like we just can't figure it out when we are actually doing or thinking or something. And as soon as we stop, the idea
Hmm.
actually comes. So you actually give the task to the brain and then let it go.
yeah,
If I understood correctly from what you said right now.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
also not also about taking a pause but then acting on what you have thought without giving more thought to it. So
yeah,
here the action is also in focus.
right.
Obviously we need to think before we act, but overthinking before action is not recommended.
Yeah. So you draw a line, thinking.
Right. Okay, I think that was a quite a self-reflecting session. What say, Ozan?
Yeah.
It was. I think we needed that, both of us. And
and
I mean,
and there are so many things still
Mm.
untapped, still unanswered, maybe because we are still in that thinking zone at the moment. And uh, when we talk about overthinking, we obviously have a lot many things that we are thinking, and the mind is so clouded that what comes to surface is only a part of it. I'm sure there are more questions that our listeners have. There are more questions that we would have after the session, and maybe we can do a second part to this.
I would love to.
yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Ozan's thinking.
Ozan is still thinking. I know.
I'm still
He
thinking.
has been doing
I'm
a lot of thinking.
overthinking. No.
Okay.
Okay, so
So
can you
yeah.
just
Mhm.
wrap up, Rachana, with by telling us your offerings, your recent offerings, and what is there for our listeners that you have right now?
Yeah. So right now I have a one-on-one program where I'm training people to move from clutter to clarity. So the issues or concerns that people are facing, whether in their work life or relationship, basically if there is a problem or challenge where they want to reach their goal, manifest their actually dream life, but unable to do that because of overthinking or because of other clutter in their life, I can help them with one-on-one session to move from clutter to clarity. And I'm also doing a free mindfulness class with meditation on in September, so I can give those details out as well.
Mhm.
Somewhere
Okay.
in the link.
Yeah, all
Yeah,
the links to her social media handles are in the description. Go ahead and
yeah.
follow her. Use her
You can also
expertise.
put the link for the meditation and mindfulness. I
Sure, we are
think
going to
we're
do
doing
that.
it on 10 September. Yes, 10 September. So if anybody wants to join in for that.
Sure, we'll do that.
Cool. Don't think. Just click on the link.
Yeah. Stop thinking and just click on the
Just go
link.
for it. Just go for it.
Thank you so much, Rachna. I think that was a very rewarding session for us, at least. And yeah,
Pleasure's all mine, and thank you so much for having me and participating in the exercises. I just,
no,
asked
but they
you
were
to be my
really
subject.
useful. I think
That,
I
that,
think they are
yeah.
of good use to us and for our listeners as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you very much. I actually like this live exercises, unexpected ones. But I think
Yeah.
I mean, it was useful for me. I'm pretty sure it was also useful for the listeners, and I'm sure that they will actually give it more thought, but not overthought on this one. But thank you. I think it was more giving clarity to difference between the thinking and overthinking. When should we
Mm.
realize how to be aware and basically how to overcome that one, how to have clarity in the mind. And I especially like that you connected science with the Hindu gods, with the Krishna. So I think I love that one. So thank you for all your insights, Rachna.
Welcome. I also have an ebook on how to stop overthinking, moving from clutter to clarity. So all your audiences and people who are listening can actually just write to you, and I can send it to all of them for free. So
Perfect.
Sure they like it. Thank you very much, Rachna.
Thank you.
most welcome. Thank you for having me. Have a great day ahead.
Bye.